Open your workbooks to page 51. We are going to talk about factoring when your equation is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c when a does not equal 1. So first we want to find two numbers, a and b, that when multiplied together equal a and c, and when added together equal b. Then we use these two numbers, these two new a and b's, to split up the middle x term. And finally, we use grouping to factor. Factor the following: 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. Since a does not equal 1 and we do not have a common factor that we can pull out of the equation, we need to approach this in a different way. So let's begin by finding our a and b term. A times b equals the first term, 2, and the last term times negative 3. Which equals negative 6. Then we have a plus b, which needs to equal the middle term. In this case, it's negative 5. Now, what two numbers, when multiplied together, equal negative 6, and when added together equal negative 5? Let's try negative 6 times 1, which equals negative 6, and negative 6 plus 1 equals negative 5. So that checks out. So our a term would equal negative 6, and our b term equals 1. Now, we are using those two new numbers, a and b, to split up this middle x term. So we're going to change that. It's going to look like this: 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. And what we're going to do, that's our original equation, we're going to split up that negative 5x. So it's going to look like this: 2x squared plus 1x minus 6x minus 3. So we broke up that middle term into two pieces. Now we can use this to factor using grouping. So let's put some parentheses in here so we can see what we're doing. We would have 2x squared plus 1x plus the quantity negative 6x minus 3. Let's find the GCF of this first quantity here. Well, in this case, it would just be x. And the GCF of the second quantity, it would be negative 3. So let's pull those terms out. We would have x times the quantity, 2x plus 1, then minus 3 times the quantity of 2x plus 1. So now we have a common factor again that we can factor out, which is the quantity 2x plus 1, and you're left with x minus 3. And that is your final answer. To check this, you can go ahead and use the FOIL method to FOIL it back out to see if your answer is the same as the original equation. Number 2, 12x squared minus 11x minus 5. Let's begin by finding our a and b terms. So a times b equals our first term, 12, times our last term, which is negative 5, which equals negative 60. And then a plus b needs to equal our middle term, which is negative 11. So, which two numbers when multiplied together equal negative 60 and when added together equal negative 11? Let's try negative 15 and 4. Negative 15 times 4 equals 60, negative 60. And then negative 15 plus 4 equals negative 11. So that works out. So our a term equals negative 15, and our b term equals 4. Now we're going to use that to split up our equation. That middle x term is what we are trying to split up. So we are going to say 12x squared minus 15x plus 4x minus 5. Now we are going to factor using grouping. So let's write it like this. The quantity 12x squared minus 15x plus the quantity 4x minus 5. Now let's find the greatest common factor of each of these. The first one would be 3x, the GCF, and the GCF of the second term equals 1. So let's pull out that 3x. So 3x times the quantity 4x minus 5 plus 1 times the quantity 4x minus 5. Now we can factor out that 4x minus 5. So we're left with 4x minus 5, the quantity, times the quantity 3x plus 1. And that is your final answer. Number 3 says 18x squared minus 12x plus 2. Let's begin by finding our a and b terms. A times b equals the first term, 18, times the last term, 2, which equals 36. Then a plus b equals our middle term, negative 12. So which two numbers, when multiplied together, equal positive 36, and when added together equal negative 12? Let's try negative 6 times negative 6 equals a positive 36. And negative 6 plus a negative 6 equals 12. Now we have our a term, a equals negative 6, and our b term, negative 6. And we can use those two terms to break up our middle x term. That looks like 18x squared minus 6x plus 2. Now let's get these grouped together. We would have the quantity 18x squared minus 6x plus the quantity negative 6x plus 2. What is the GCF of the first term? Negative 6x. And the GCF of the second term is 2. So factoring out that negative 6x, you are left with negative 3x plus 1. And then factoring out the 2, you are left with 2 times the quantity negative 3x plus 1. Now we can factor out the negative 3x plus 1. Negative 3x plus 1, the quantity, times the quantity, negative 6x plus 2. And that is your final answer. Number 4 says 9x squared minus 6x plus 1. Let's begin by finding our a and b term. A times b, that equals our first term, 9, times our last term, 1. Then a plus b equals our middle term, which is negative 6. Okay, now we need to find two numbers when multiplied together equal 9 and when added together equal negative 6. So let's try negative 3 times negative 3 equals positive 9. And negative 3 plus negative 3 equals negative 6. So that checks out. So our new a is negative 3, and our b is negative 3. Now we can split up that middle x term. So our new equation will look like this. 9x squared minus 3x plus 1. Let's get some parentheses here so we can group. So we have 9x squared minus 3x plus negative 3x plus 1. Let's find the greatest common factor of the first term. The GCF equals negative 3x. And the second term, the GCF, is just 1. So let's factor out that negative 3x. We're left with negative 3x times the quantity negative 3x plus 1 plus 1 times the quantity of negative 3x plus 1. Now we can factor out that negative 3x plus 1. So we're left with negative 3x plus 1 times the quantity of negative 3x plus 1. That is your final answer. Number 9, 10a squared minus a plus 4. Let's begin by finding our a and b term. So a times b equals the first term, 10, times the last term, 4, which equals 40. And then a plus b equals our middle term. In this case, it is negative 1. So we need to find two numbers when multiplied together equal 40, and when added together equal negative 1. So let's think of the multiples of 40. We have 1 times 40. We have 2 times 20. We have 4 times 10. And 5 times 8. So looking at these, do any of these add up to negative 1? 5 plus 8, does that add up to negative 1? Or 8 minus 5, does that add up to negative 1? You can go through each of these numbers and see that this does not factor. So when you answer your problems on My Open Math, you would put D, N, E, F. Does not factor.